Hello, this is Weekend File on the NTA. We are live in Abuja. Every nation is classified according to her productive capacity. In today's economy, the industrialized world are regarded as advanced societies because of their productive capacity. Nations that follow them are seen as second world. Nigeria, for example, is among the developing nations or third world because of weak economy fueled by lack of productive capacity. It is obvious that the challenge today in Nigeria is how best to make the economy work for the betterment of all. By so doing, Nigeria will meet its national aspirations. On realization of this defect, the federal government from time immemorial had been working hard through various interventions, policies and programs to fast-track the economy for all inclusiveness. Early in 2018, in a swift reaction, President Muhammadu Buhari signed Executive Order No. 5 for planning and execution of projects, promotion of Nigerian content in contract and science, engineering and technology. This is to address capital flight, encourage local content development, create jobs, and ultimately establish a new wealth base across all sectors of the economy. And to achieve this, the federal government has remained dogged in financing the provision of electricity, railway projects, roads construction and reconstruction, and gas expansion, among others. Moreover, the national policy on micro, small and medium enterprises has continued to deliver maximum benefits of employment generation, wealth creation and poverty reduction and growth to the Nigerian economy. Across states, efforts are also on to provide the necessary baseline where citizens can seize public opportunities to support their various businesses. The current national and global challenges notwithstanding, government remains focused on promoting made-in-Nigerian goods for economic growth. Stay with us tonight on The Conversation. We have situation reports and our guest is Obonna Ukuku, investment and economic development expert. I am Kene Ima Aborike. Welcome. All right, let's begin by telling you that activities commemorating this year's Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebrations were rounded off across Nigeria with the laying of wreath at the cenotaph of the unknown soldier. In Abuja, the nation's capital, the symbolic annual ritual, which held at the nation's arcade, was presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
It's January 15, and once again Nigeria remembers her fallen heroes, those who sacrificed their lives during the World Wars, the Nigerian Civil War, as well as the various peacekeeping and internal security operations. This year, the epoch-making and solemn event coincides with a massive onslaught against terrorists and other criminal elements undermining national security and stability. The Buhari presidency is determined to ensure that a security-challenged Nigeria is not handed over to the next administration. And at the last count, over 20,000 Boko Haram fighters have surrendered to the nation's troops, and thousands have been neutralized in the northeast, where peace is gradually being restored, while bandits in the northwest, now designated as terrorists, are being dealt with in the language they understand. The wreath-laying ritual at the cenotaph of the unknown soldier by President Muhammadu Buhari is therefore a befitting honor not only to the fallen heroes of Nigeria, but also those currently embedded in the various theaters of operation to protect and defend the nation's integrity. The president was joined by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Senate President Ahmed Lawan, Speaker Femi Bajabiamila of the House of Representatives, Chief Justice of Nigeria, as well as the Minister of Defense and the Minister of State for the FCT. There were also the Chief of Defense Staff, Service Chiefs and the Inspector General of Police, as well as representatives of the Diplomatic Corps, the Nigerian Legion, and widows of the fallen heroes.
All are to rise.
Special prayers were offered for the repose of the souls of the departed soldiers, as well as peace, unity, stability, and sustainable national development.
O God of infinite goodness, we implore you to grant peace to our nation.
Our President, President Muhammad Buhari, be for him and be not against him. Support him and do not support against him.
Father, we ask of you that even as we remember the fallen heroes, that none of these ones, Lord, will ever regret the sacrifice of their breadwinners.
And the 2022 Armed Forces Remembrance Day activities, kicked off by the presidency in October last year, formally came to a close with this presidential kiss to a pigeon. In Abuja, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, beyond commemorating those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty, Armed Forces Remembrance Day also embodies many symbolic acts which point to peace and unity. Defense correspondent Najatu Tijani tells us more.
These wreaths, which the President and other dignitaries, members of the Federal Executive Council and members of the Diplomatic Corps laid today at the cenotaph of the unknown soldier who represents those who fought in the First and Second World Wars and also Nigeria's Civil War, and these days also symbolizes those who are still defending the land, are made up of fresh flowers indigenous to Nigeria and also evergreens. This evergreen does not shed its leaves, nor does it change color year in, year out, symbolizing that the memory of the fallen heroes will remain evergreen in the hearts of Nigerians. Peace and unity, as well as sacrifice, are two of the main themes which played out here today.
We are here as a nation because of their gallantry and because of their sacrifice. And we continue to say, may their souls rest in perfect peace.
Very impressive, very solemn. It is an occasion that reminds all of us about the sacrifices of the military. Those who have paid the supreme sacrifice that we may live, we may have peace. That is patriotism at its highest.
The best we can do is to remember them, to celebrate them, and to support the families they left behind.
Remarks by ministers concerning the importance of this day, asking Nigerians to continue to be patriotic, to show love and regard for the sacrifices being made on a daily basis to keep the country together. I'm Najatu Tijani.
While Nigeria is honoring fallen heroes, living heroes are making the country proud in Cameroon as Nigeria counting. Well, let's go to security matters now. A theater commander, Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadinkai, Major General Christopher Musa, says troops of the command successfully repelled ISWAP attacks on Bu, Kai-Tukari in Jipok and Buratai communities, as 5 terrorists were neutralized and anti-aircraft guns recovered from the criminal element. Maimuna Garba reports.
Following upsurge of ISWAP activities recently, 3 communities in the southern part of Borno were attacked, with the recent one in Bu Saturday afternoon. Confirming the attacks, Theater Commander Operation Hadinkai, Major General Christopher Musa, said the attacks on southern part of the state was due to intensified onslaught in northern Borno. Hence, the terrorists moved to the southern part to conduct isolated attacks.
We know it was just an action as part of what I said to divert attention and also to look for funds from their foreign, but we are sure we remain focused and we're going to get them. And to tell you the truth, the same group that did that tried their luck this evening. They're the same group that moved to go and attack Bu today. And unfortunately, they met their Waterloo.
The theater commander, however, confirmed that 2 people were killed by the terrorists while fleeing Buratai during the attack last Monday, and some houses burned on Friday night in Kautikari. He said the southern part will also be fortified to prevent the terrorists from carrying out their dastardly acts.
I want to call on Nigerians to understand that we're fighting a good cause. We're fighting for Nigeria, for Nigeria's survival, for Nigeria to develop. So all Nigerians will put out on deck and support the military.
General Musa warned those collaborating with the terrorists to desist, as the military will decisively deal with them. In Maiduguri, Maimuna Garba, NTA News.
Ebonyi State Police Command has recorded another feat in the fight against crime with the rescue of 32 children from traffickers in the state. Ejama Peter Wante reports that the State Commissioner of Police, Aliyu Garba, while briefing the press on the development, called on parents to always be watchful and pay keen interest on the whereabouts of their children and wards.
Public Relations Officer Lovett Oda said the command rescued 32 underage children who were trafficked from different parts of the country for forced labor and sexual exploitation. She said in the course of investigating the whereabouts of one Miss Chidera Wankwo, whose case was reported by the mother, useful statement was made to the police, and that led to the rescue of 32 children by operatives from a hideout at Oposi Umohara.
We are going to further investigation to Imo State, where Chidera had confirmed that there are more than 20 girls in an apartment that look like a hall, and up to like 18 boys also there, doing the same business in the name of networking.
The State Commissioner of Police called on parents whose children are missing to report to the police headquarters for identification and possible claim of their wards. In Abakaliki, Ijoma Peter Wante, NTA News.
Authorities of the Federal University Lafayette have confirmed the abduction of 4 of 8 students. Head Information Unit of the University, Abubakar Ibrahim, disclosed this to NTA News in Lafayette. Achigile Magaji reports.
Though a visit to the university shows that normal activities are ongoing, some students are seen in groups discussing the development. Mr. Abubakar Ibrahim confirmed that the incident occurred at the Maraba Akunza area of Lafayette, close to the university where many of the students stay.
It happened on Thursday night, and 4 of our students were out of the university abducted. They were not abducted within the premises of the university.
Some residents in the neighborhood expressed concern that the level of insecurity in the area is becoming worrisome.
Because the house just like opposite my house. And the thing is that I don't know if the school can help with us, because that our side is very inside. They can like, the school patrol unit to come between that side because we're not safe. Like not safe at all. This has happened before, now it's happening again.
Not actually a good feeling because it can happen to anybody. And my lodge is really close to the place. So I don't think we're actually safe.
Although the police public relations officer, Nasarawa State Command, was not available for comments, the university authorities say it is working in close collaboration with all the security agencies and other stakeholders to ensure the safe return of the adopted students. Achigile Magaji, NTA News.
And to consolidate on the successes being recorded in addressing insecurity, Katsina State government has adopted a public enlightenment strategy towards ensuring safety and security at institutions of learning across the state. Awal Haliru reports that part of the strategy is the engagement with relevant stakeholders for enhanced campus security.
The happenings of last year of the adoption of schoolboys in Katsina prompted continued proactive measures by the state government to put an end to the menace. The strategic engagement with the relevant stakeholders organized by the Office of the Special Advisor on Security Matters is to reawaken the consciousness of students on safety. The lecture session provided opportunity for a wide scope of individuals from the security agencies to educate participants on various issues of security aimed at ensuring a safe environment.
Other strategies should be developed by individual institutions taking their particular and peculiar situations.
This is a new strategy in security management. That's why we engage the relevant strategic stakeholders to do these discussions. It's an interface.
And in view of the vulnerability of students in drug abuse and traffic rules violations, officials from NDLEA and the Federal Road Safety Corps delivered lectures as part of strategies for robust relationship between security agencies and students. Awal Haliru, NTA News.
Now, the Commandant General of Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Ahmed Abubakar Audi, has ordered the suspension of the anti-vandal unit of the Corps in Rivers State. The suspension followed an allegation leveled against the unit by the governor of the state, Nyesom Wike, alleging that the unit is an accomplice in oil bunkering activities in the state. While assuring the governor of getting to the root of the matter without delay, the Commandant General notes that the suspension can only be reviewed after the conclusion of investigations. He further promised that the Corps would beam more searchlight into that area by reorganizing and reconstituting the anti-vandal unit with a view to making it more responsive, transparent and accountable to Nigerians. Away from security matters, Governor Mai Malabuni has launched the Maiden Yobe Education Day with the distribution of educational textbooks and modern laboratory equipment worth millions of naira to improve teaching and learning in schools across the state. Correspondent Bashir Nababa reports that an enhanced school feeding program was also unveiled to promote productivity among students.
Since the inception of the Governor Mema Labuni administration in 2019, education was considered top priority with the declaration of state of emergency on the sector for enhanced productivity. Launching the education support initiatives, Governor Mema Labuni says his administration is bringing education to the front burner in order to make quality education affordable and accessible to the children of the poor. He recalled with satisfaction commendation given to Yobe State by the British government through its ambassador to Nigeria for the successes recorded in repositioning the education sector over the years.
The impressive performance of our students in national examinations is a positive indication to our collective efforts to equip the future generations with the required prerequisites for self-actualization, good citizenship, and a prosperous future for the state.
The education sector in Yobe State is one area that suffered the most during the years of Boko Haram insurgency, with schools being targets for destruction by the insurgents. This scenario has, however, changed by the combined efforts of governments, non-governmental organizations, and international donor agencies, with the sector witnessing increased stability and enrollment. From Damaturu, Bashir Nababa, NTA News.
The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zubairu Dada, has called on Saudi authorities to reconsider earlier decision on travel ban placed on Nigeria due to concerns over Omicron. This was at a meeting with the Saudi Arabian ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Faisal bin Ibrahim Al Ghamdi. The minister said other countries that took same decision have reversed their stand, having started the achievements of Nigeria so far in the fight against the Omicron variant and the coronavirus pandemic in general. The Saudi Arabian ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Faisal bin Ibrahim Al Ghamdi, while responding to Nigeria's request for the lifting of the travel ban, expressed satisfaction with the effort Nigeria is making to contain the pandemic. The soaring demand for shea nuts and many of its derivatives has brought to the fore the necessity for Nigeria, as the world's top producer of the essential commodity, to capitalize on its unrivaled production capacity to enhance the country's sustainable economic growth. This is the focus of a capacity training initiative for more than 200 rural women in Niger State who were sensitized on how to improve the quality of shea nuts in line with the prescribed standard of export, organized by the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment. Fatima Aliyu has that report.
From the global markets indicates that shea nut production and processing is beyond subsistence. Nigeria, as the leading exporter of this valuable commodity, has already motioned appropriate framework to boost its production across the country for both industrial and export purposes. This capacity training program therefore seeks to walk the talk as relevant agencies and parastatals in the agro-commodities and export sector who are duty-bound to lead the charge through sensitization and enforcement of these policies took turns to intimate the gathering on the gains of the initiative.
We are here to promote fumigation, that is a pest control on the aspect, so that we can be able to get good produce of shea nut.
We are able to partner with the World Trade Organization, bringing some of the facility through the STDF projects.
They are free to come to the agency to register their product because NAFDAC is encouraging micro, small and medium-scale enterprises.
We want the government to support them by giving them even a village, to give them a small machine so that they can use and get this shea butter product done.
Jomai Abubakar, like many others who have been in the business of shea butter production for more than a decade, maintained that the innovative idea will achieve greater success if the women folks were supported with soft loans, which has proven difficult to ourselves. In Mina, Fatima Aliu, NTA News.
We now go on our first break on Weekend Farm. There have been intensified efforts by governments at various levels to diversify the Nigerian economy, and economy experts have said without reservations that one vital approach would be to revive local industries and encourage production and patronage of made-in-Nigeria goods. It is against this backdrop that this report by Muplang Dakok looks at the micro, small and medium enterprises with comparative advantage in Nigeria and their contribution to the economy despite the prevailing challenges.
The export of crude oil is a major contributor to Nigeria's economic growth, as it contributes significantly to the growth of export trade in the country. It is also established that Nigeria has comparative advantage in agriculture in Africa based on its vast fertile land and manpower. In spite of this, commodity exports dropped by 2.3% in December 2021.
A zero oil plan identified 22 sectors where we need to increase production and productivity in order to be able to trade and not rely on oil.
Nigeria has had its fair share of rejected products in other climes and lower patronage of local products in favor of foreign goods. Challenges responsible for the low level of exports of made-in-Nigeria goods include logistics at the ports, inadequate storage facilities, poor packaging of products for exports, and low value addition to agricultural products, of which analysts say short and long-term solutions are needed to solve.
Investment that creates jobs, that grows economies and delivers on GDP. Trade facilitation is key. When you look at the access of goods and people, you see why we're working on the seaports, why we're working on the airports, why we're working on visas.
The latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics show that total MSMEs in Nigeria in 2020 were 39.654 million. MSMEs accounted for 96.7% of businesses in the country in 2020 and contributed 3.7% to employment. They accounted for 6.21% of gross exports and contributed 46.31% to GDP, a decrease of 3.5%. Global competitiveness, COVID-19 and security challenges are identified as factors responsible for the decrease in contribution to GDP.
Despite their numerical dominance, Nigerian MSMEs contribute less than 10% to non-agricultural GDP. This situation has been attributed to their unstructured and highly individualistic tendencies.
The COVID-19 pandemic affected tremendously MSMEs in the country, showed that 53.2% of small and medium enterprises and 37.3% of medium enterprises were temporarily closed during the period.
As policymakers on the continent continue to streamline guidelines for the smooth sale of the AfCFTA, it is expected that the challenges posed to goods made in Nigeria are addressed speedily for increased revenue and economic growth. In Abuja, Muplang Dakok, NTA News.
Grow what you eat and eat what you grow is a national mantra that derives its relevance from the numerous advantages that patronizing made-in-Nigeria goods can offer the economy. Stakeholders say if Nigeria must leverage the African Free Continental Trade Area Agreement to expand its export base, then charity must begin at home with the right incentives. Adeni Taiwo completes the report.
This shoemaking hub is where Abimbola works, along with others making different kinds of shoes for the Nigerian market.
Abimbola hopes to leverage the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement anytime soon to export our products to other parts of the continent.
It's always hard to get customers because some people feel Italian shoes are better than Nigerian handmade and all of that. But you just need to convince them and tell them how good your products are.
Leatherworks, hats, music, textile, food commodities, and even automobile are other industries where Nigeria has competitive advantage but rarely enjoy needed patronage because of the penchant for foreign products. Between October 2018 and September 2019 alone, 1.8 trillion naira worth of used vehicles were imported into the country, demonstrating his confidence in made in Nigeria cars by purchasing in 2018 a brand new G-Wagon from a Nigerian car manufacturing plant. The Oluwo of Iwo says Nigerians must cultivate the right attitude towards homegrown technologies.
How can we impact the black race is to promote what we have.
The best incentive I will tell you that any manufacturer requires is patronage. And the patronage will start with the government, and people will now believe, okay, government supports this.
Poor attitude of Nigerians to made in Nigeria goods and poor implementation of policies to protect local industries have in time past led to their disappearance and affected Nigeria's gross domestic product. After about 20 years as a prepaid meter manufacturer, Barrister Ahmed is happy that the local industry in the power sector is now enjoying some incentives.
So the only thing you can do is to, like we have in the tariff structure, whereby levies are being put on certain goods, and the essence of that is to protect the local industry.
For Nigeria's market to grow, these stakeholders say not only a policy drive, but also a mental shift that will see Nigerians consuming homegrown products and services will be required. In Lagos, Adini Itaiwo, NTA News.
Now, Obona Ukoko, an investment and economic development expert, joins us live in the studio. You're welcome to Weekend File.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How do you appraise made in Nigeria goods or local content vis-a-vis the fact that the federal government over the years have done so much in promoting it?
Now let's look at it from first things first. Like one of the the report says, it's a lot about a mental shift, how people would see, view, appreciate things made in Nigeria. Now, I always say this. I said we're a third world country with a first world appetite. What that really simply means is that it's so clear that the appetite for foreign goods is still very high around here. Now, I also not blame a lot of people because this is something that they've been used to before now. For the past 30 years, manufacturing have, producing goods locally have become had impediments. It had a lot of issues, and then because those basic parameters that support locally made goods were not there. We just started building infrastructure. We just started supporting, providing those basic manpower knowledge that is required to get an industry to run. We still don't have a tailor-made sector-specific technology acquisition program that will help us also have a way to acquire some of the technologies that will be required, be it in the leather industry, to support those who are going to be making some of these goods so that they can tastefully finish these goods to meet the standards that we the people are already used to. We need to also look at things that have to do with being able to look at the expansion of the market. What I mean by that is being able to connect smaller firms to bigger firms so that they can also support those smaller firms, being able to acquire those goods and then be able to distribute them because they have larger networks. Then we need to also look at the financial engineering required because you have to develop businesses that will develop projects or programs that will suit those smaller, the MSMEs, so that they will be able to, get funding that will support, support them, so that you don't weigh them down with high interest rates. Because anytime you're talking about a product or talking about the activities in an economy, you look at the products, you look at the commodity. There are specific things that you must be able to give them so that they will be able to give you back in return what will be able to suit that economy at every point in time.
We have a huge market here in Nigeria and indeed Africa.
Yeah.
And whatever we make do to produce, really sells. We see a lot of young people and adults alike all engaged in one form of manufacturing or the other. And I said earlier that over time, the government have laid down some enabling environment for some of these things, to thrive. But you are now mentioning about the psyche of our people, the appetite for foreign goods.
Yeah.
Isn't there something we need to do about that apart from those impediments you outlined?
Now, see, I can as much as, try to persuade you to buy locally made goods. But if you make it difficult for importers to also bring in those foreign goods, that can also help. But don't also forget that, the World Trade Organization regulates some of these things. There's some things you can't do because we have signed to some of these organizations, these treaties, that certain things we can't do. But if we want to protect our industry, if there are decisions that we can't take, and then World Trade Organization will understand that we're trying to protect our own economy. Because whether we like it or not, if, for example, you want to look at things like a glucose syrup, for example, we still import glucose syrup so that we'll be able to make candies in Nigeria. And then you say, okay, because from all glucose syrup comes from cassava, and then you produce cassava and sell as commodity. Now, countries like Bangladesh, Cambodia, Chile, these are countries that have left selling commodities. They've started adding values to some of these products so that they can find, it now becomes a raw material supply strategy for them to grow their economy. Because with that, if you add value to products, what that does is that it creates employment for your people. It contributes more to your GDP. So if you begin to now say, okay, for anyone who wants to bring in glucose syrup in Nigeria, this level of tariff is what you're going to be paying. But if you want to produce glucose syrup in Nigeria, these are the kind of incentives you're going to get. So pushing some of this, and it has to be targeted to certain products that we know that we expend so much money on importing raw materials when the real raw material is from here. So these are the kind of things that we need to actually look at and say, okay, let's say you want to do cassava farming in Nigeria. These are the areas government is going to support you. You're going to get funding. State government also have to be fully involved in it, because that's one of the issues that we have. Because when the federal government designs a program and the state is not in sync with the federal government program, it becomes a problem, because they are the custodians of the land where you're going to cultivate. So if government provide funds through the MSME funding that they're providing, the anchor borrowers funds, and then farmers don't have land to cultivate, it makes no sense. So at the end of the day, there has to be a confluence. There has to be a sit down. All of us, all policymakers have to come together and decide this is the way to go, and then come up with those tariffs, and then again encourage local manufacturing and those who are making these products in Nigeria.
All right, let me leave you for now, because we will be going on another break on Weekend File. Thank you for staying with us. Despite all odds that hinder the growth of manufacturing companies, some factories in Kano are still operating in the state with their various brands that circulate all over the country. Aminu Umar, who visited some of their premises, now reports.
In addition to being a commercial nerve center of northern Nigeria, Kano was also ranked higher in industrialization around 70s and 80s, with a lot of garment and textile industries that provided thousands of job opportunities. Many of them have now closed, with some operating below their capacity, leading to the loss of many jobs. Despite all the challenges, some companies, especially the new generations, have continued to remain afloat, creating more jobs and impacting on the economy of the state and the nation. This one alone has created more than 3,000 jobs, with more than 1 million indirect ones.
I spent more than 10 years working here. I own so many things, and all my children are in private school.
I have sisters and brothers who I'm taking care of. I appreciate God for this opportunity. I am using my monthly wage to take care of my orphans.
Federal government's deliberate policy on agriculture, particularly the ban on rice importations, has paved the way for the opening and expansion of more rice mills that are fast flourishing in Kano, which supports farmers to produce more. Although with common and unique challenges, some manufacturers and producers are working towards promoting the Nigerian made, noting that their brands are penetrating the markets with prospects of crossing the shores of the country.
Some of the challenges we meet is with our freight and forwarding agents. Their charges is what is killing export business in Nigeria.
So if we don't have access to forex from government, we have to buy the dollars from black markets at a very high rate. So that will automatically raise up the price of our finished products, which is not the sufferance of our fellow Nigerians and ourselves.
The climate change, and we need to really work on our irrigation, especially, the production of the rice itself, the grain, the farm, the harvest handling as well, how farmers, can be able to sell their products successfully without any damage from, their farms down to the markets.
They are optimistic that with economic-friendly policies, massive infrastructure like the early completion of the gas pipeline, rail projects, Kano dry land ports, among others, they have all it takes to grow the nation's economy and compete favorably with other economies. In Kano, Amin Umar, NTA News.
Aba, the commercial nerve center in the southeast, but how are business activities in this area contributing to the economic growth of the nation and the possible challenges? Let's see the report.
Aba remains the center of commerce and production in Abia State, with the manufacturing of shoes, bags and cloth. The acceptability of made in Aba products reflects in increasing patronage within the country and in the international community.
We actually export. I have some clients. I have someone in New York I sent to. I recently made a back patch used for an NGO, about 400 pieces.
Coming from Benin, we are trying in terms of work, because even China, they are not doing what Aba are doing. So I'm really happy the way they are doing.
Lack of equipment for enhanced production, unsteady power supply, and high cost of raw materials are some of the challenges of the manufacturers of these local products.
We really need machines to perfect what we do. Then finances, because we're always trying to get better and we are trying to be able to compete with the international market.
If somebody gives you an order of 1,000, you will die with it. Maybe you will work it up to 3 months before working it up. But it's what if you have equipment, only 1 day or 2 days the contract is off.
Power has been our major challenge. To run generator in a day, buying fuel is about 1,600 naira per day. Because at least every average individual will use more than up to or more than 10 liters of fuel.
Members of the business community insist that made in Nigerian products can take over the local and international markets if government intervention and friendly policies are implemented and funds granted to the sector. In Aba, Grace Nana, NTA News.
We still have Obona Ukuku, investment and economic development expert, with us in the studio. Those reports we are talking about patronage and, of course, some impediments. But then looking at the value chain of a certain robust made in Nigeria goods circulation, let's say within the nation and the continent, do you think we need some form of legislation to at least ensure that at least some particular goods are protected and properly taken care of?
Like I said, it's beyond legislation, right? Protecting your local industry, as because of organizations like WTO and all of that, we've gone beyond legislation. There are certain things we need to do before we begin to look at legislation. For example, most of them talked about infrastructure as some of the things that have been a problem to them. So most of them talked about, getting forex, foreign exchange, to buy some of the raw materials that they need. So they talked about Aba, for example. To move, it is a network of firms. For you to be able to produce, industrialization is basically, a function of network of firms being able to meet firm A, being able to meet the need of firm B, and then at the end of the day, we move to the consumers. If we are not able to have that transaction within firm A and B, because there are no roads in Aba, or because the neglect that that you see nobody's interested in what they are doing. Yeah, there's been a lot of efforts. You know, you see from, you know, BOI trying to provide funding for those who are manufacturing, but these things are never enough, because we're looking at a large economy. We're looking at a large community of people doing, you know, a whole lot, and we need to design products that can suit them. These are people who still doesn't understand basic accounting, bookkeeping system, that you need to design product that will suit them. These are people who should be able to, you know, have a concerted effort towards getting them the market that they require. Because just like the man said, if I'm asked to produce 3,000 pairs of shoes today, how am I going to do it? Where will I get the funds from? It's going to take me a long time to do that. For you to participate effectively in global value chain, there has to be that timeline. You should be able to produce, you know, be able to meet your contracts, meet, you know, those obligations within a specific time, so that you don't lose the customers. So there's a lot that needs to happen just within what we have, being able to, you know, complete the infrastructure program that the federal government is, you know, embarking upon now, being able to make sure that we have, you know, railways, you know, running across all parts of the nation, being able to have our road networks all working. And you see, these are things that will create that enabling environment that will make productivity easy. Without all of this, and then one thing is very key: the knowledge, the manpower, the skilled manpower is also very key. Because if you want someone to come and start making shoes in Aba, and all he has is just that local knowledge, there has to be someone who has, you know, that higher knowledge when it comes to standardization, compliance to standards. Then the level of, you know, that level of compliance, those who will be able to, you know, guide these people to be able to produce their goods to a level where people out there will be able to appreciate.
Exactly.
So these are the things that have to happen before we even go to legislation. I think we have enough laws. I think it's just our ability to put them together and then streamline them so that these guys can actually take advantage of them.
I want to thank you immensely for coming on Weekend File tonight.
All right, thanks for having me.
We were speaking with Obona Okuku, investment and economic development experts, on promoting made in Nigerian goods for economic growth. Let's go for one more break on the program.